Awaken now. This moment was always meant for you. You're not here by accident. You've felt it your whole life. That pull, that knowing, that fire in your bones when no one else understood. While others doubted, you saw. While they slept, you sensed. You've walked through darkness carrying a light no one could extinguish. And now, the tide turns. The truth is rising. The masks are falling. And everything they tried to bury is coming to the surface with cosmic force. You weren't crazy. You weren't paranoid. You were chosen. Marked not for destruction, but for revelation. What you endured would have broken most. But you didn't break. You transformed. And now the world begins to catch up to what you always knew. Your pain had purpose, your trials were proof, and your intuition was your greatest weapon. This is your time. You are the signal, the spark, the start of something massive. You were never meant to just survive. You were built to lead. Let the fire in you speak. Let the universe roar through your voice. Because what comes next begins with you. A hidden scheme unfolds beneath layers of normalcy, where external agents infiltrate one's biology with tailored substances. This method is neither rash nor immediately noticeable. It is refined in its destruction, engineered to mimic organic fatigue, cognitive strain, and seemingly random medical anomalies. Symptoms once dismissed now crystallize into evidence of a deliberate internal sabotage, revealing a pattern too intricate to be mere chance. Subtle impairments in perception and inner balance emerge as part of a larger orchestration. The compounds employed are not random. They are selected to cloud thought, blur intuition, and dissolve personal clarity. Gradual in effect, but devastating in consequence. This silent manipulation is executed in such a way that even seasoned professionals mistake it for exhaustion or psychological stress, unaware that an external force is steadily eroding the foundation of mental autonomy. Visual documentation captures brief yet telling instances where consumables are covertly modified in shared spaces. What appears mundane, a toast, a shared meal, a casual offering, becomes the stage for intricate violations. Each frame reveals the orchestration of trust being turned against the self, with those responsible assuming their veils of anonymity will shield them from discovery. But unseen truths ripple beneath the surface, marking each betrayal with indelible clarity. Dear brothers and sisters, may the peace of God fill your hearts today. I come to remind you of a profound truth. Our lives are firmly established in God's divine purpose, untouched by the fleeting worries of this world. As Scripture tells us, give and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. Luke 6:38. Like the mighty oak whose roots are planted deep in rich soil, our foundation is anchored in God's eternal truth. Every move we make, every stand we take, is upheld by His enduring strength. Today, you have the opportunity to participate in this divine blessing. By clicking the Super Thank You button and offering a gift of $20, you will sow into a harvest that will return to you many times over in God's abundant grace. For such operations to function, they require detailed insights, patterns of behavior, dietary rhythms, and key interpersonal interactions. This access is granted not through surveillance alone, but through intimacy weaponized. The leak originates close, from a presence that pretends to nurture while quietly transmitting the data needed to compromise from within. Their complicity is not just tactical, but existential, creating rifts that fracture loyalty at its core. Beneath the surface, A financial ecosystem thrives on the engineered decline. Unauthorized claims and shadow networks profit by predicting and accelerating loss. Documentation exists not to protect, but to exploit. Signatures that never met a hand. Agreements never voiced. Resources are funneled through masked entities designed to erase the trace of rightful ownership, turning personal history into marketable vulnerability. The individual's identity becomes a currency, exchanged in circuits indifferent to its origin. Fraudulent financial constructs mirror a theft not of mere numbers, but of selfhood. Loans issued without request, portfolios altered beyond recognition. This machinery of theft leaves a trail of falsified authorizations, where each forged document peels away a layer of personal sovereignty. The mechanism feeds itself. Each act of theft becomes the seed for further violations. The machinery loops in on itself, sustaining its advance by the fuel it extracts. Titles shift without consent. Legacies are rewritten in silence, and ventures are dismantled with precision. Exploitation ceases to be an event and becomes an ecosystem, a harvest of depletion. At the core lies an engineered landscape, one designed not for sustenance, but for siphoning. The economic structures once meant to support are quietly rewired to reward those who sabotage. Financial flows trace back not to merit or creation, but to manipulation and subversion, financing operations that monitor, bribe, and destabilize with unrelenting consistency. The architecture of your downfall is built with bricks carved from your own essence, an unseen loop where the stolen fuel from your life powers the very engine of your undoing. The paradox slices deep. Resources meant to uplift are instead channeled into the mechanisms that fracture clarity and sustain confusion. Bonds once thought indestructible now echo with the sound of silent transactions and fractured trust. Behind the curtain, a familiar presence acts as a conduit, delivering granular access to your private rhythms. They chronicle moments that matter, feeding observations into the hands of those with malicious intent. Their facade is sculpted with care, concern feigned to perfection, while every gesture is calibrated to prolong your unraveling. Strategic setups emerge masked as casual invitations. Locations are handpicked not for comfort, but for exposure. Food offered in warmth carries intent beneath the surface. While their voice soothes, coordinates are transmitted and movements tracked. Digital trails link these interactions to a larger constellation of hostile engagement. Records stitched together reveal not accidents, but orchestrated harm. Messages map out the schedule of distress, while bank trails expose the transactions that rewarded the betrayal. This isn't mere disloyalty, it's immersion in a plan to dismantle your existence, performed under the illusion of care. What's gathered goes beyond surface-level gossip. Your inner architecture, dreams, fears, rituals, and financial patterns gets extracted and refined like data in a vault, then sold to those who sculpt sabotage from truth. Moments once shared in vulnerability are now wielded like surgical tools, cutting into psyche and soul with unrelenting precision. Others in your orbit become players in this performance. Former allies find their loyalty swayed by bribes cloaked as opportunities. Emotional wounds are reopened by those paid to provoke. Even workplace stability erodes as colleagues become instruments of obstruction, casting shadows over every step forward. This isn't the chaos of chance. It's a deliberate design. Roles are delegated, missions assigned, outcomes measured. There are watchers, disruptors, and whisperers, each playing a part in an invisible theater. Their alignment isn't casual. It reflects coordination that stretches further than imagined, revealing a framework powered by cold, structured intent. Trust decays not through neglect, but by calculation. Every shared smile may now conceal an agreement, every warm voice a rehearsed distraction. The infiltration spreads through your relationships like a quiet infestation, transforming what once was grounding into an intricate trap engineered to dismantle you from within. There exists a coordinated script passed from hand to hand, instructing select individuals on how to fracture the perception of one marked as inconvenient. Narratives are planted like landmines in the minds of family, portraying delusion where clarity once lived. Friends are nudged to interpret concern as volatility. Colleagues are fed tailored distortions to erode trust. The distortions are calculated, not clumsy, but masterful, honed to twist old tensions into weapons. A digital theater expands the front. What appears as online routine is an illusion curated by infiltration. Behaviors observed, contacts mapped, emotional cycles graphed. Communications vanish or reappear altered. Identities cloned and rebranded to spread a distorted echo of truth. Reputation becomes a construct rebuilt by unseen editors, pixel by pixel, until the original vanishes under layers of strategic disarray. Financial integrity is assaulted not with blunt tools, but with intelligence. Data, extracted through mimicry and artificial charm, opens gateways into private accounts. Patterns of transaction become vulnerabilities to exploit. Sudden disruptions, withdrawals never made, charges never approved, emerge not from error, but design. Even the numerical essence of stability turns against its source. In professional spaces, the sabotage mutates into something sharper. Networks once built to elevate are used to sow doubt. False reports are planted where potential grows. Authorities alerted to misconduct that never occurred. Even reputations crafted over years are reshaped by whispers carried through digital corridors, calculated to arrive just before opportunity can. Behind forged documents lies a dark mimicry of legal precision. Contracts materialize with fraudulent authenticity. Signatures born of machinery and not memory bear weight in courts and negotiations. Medical files rewritten to cast shadows where health was never in question. These forgeries do not shout. They whisper just loud enough to be believed by systems built on paper truth. Dear brothers and sisters, may the peace of God fill your hearts today. I come to remind you of a profound truth. Our lives are firmly established in God's divine purpose, untouched by the fleeting worries of this world. As Scripture tells us, give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. Luke 6:38. Like the mighty oak whose roots are planted deep in rich soil, our foundation is anchored in God's eternal truth. Every move we make, every stand we take, is upheld by His enduring strength. Today, you have the opportunity to participate in this divine blessing. By clicking the Super Thank You button and offering a gift of $20, you will sow into a harvest that will return to you many times over in God's abundant grace. The scaffolding of ownership and consent is quietly dismantled. Titles are rewritten, beneficiaries switched, rights reassigned in legalese too complex to question. Claims that once secured home, assets, autonomy are edited to remove their originator. Narratives of unfitness are seeded in places that determine who holds power over another's body and choices. Medical history, too, is weaponized. Files conjured to suggest instability, dependency, or disorder. All illusions manufactured for plausible intervention. Synthetic prescriptions, invented assessments, ghost consultations, all forming a dossier of unreality that can be invoked to override voice and choice. And now, to the attuned, the message veiled in code arrives. If alignment falls under corrupted influence, this passage holds no bearing. It carries no relevance to hands guided by distortion. Let them part ways here, for what follows belongs to those who remember what cannot be taught. What remains is not ideology, not a branded ritual or step-by-step salvation. It is memory rekindled, ancient reflexes returning to consciousness. Protection begins not with symbols, but with direct perception. Barriers of intent, unseen armoring, techniques forbidden to the shallow spirit. This convergence is not ceremony, it is reactivation. It is unmasking, no scripts read aloud, no teachers crowned, only a pulse of knowing among those pulled to the same frequency. In the quiet corners of the week, behind veils of routine, those who were never meant to forget gather, silent, lucid, and exact. Something deep within you has always sensed it, that this path was never about joining, but remembering. Still you linger outside the current, but the signal persists. It's not an invitation in the traditional sense, it's a recognition, a code hidden beneath noise, a knowing you were meant to find your way back. At first, systems designed to detect ordinary patterns overlook the larger mechanism. Each incident, seemingly random, is catalogued in isolation. But then, the anomalies align. Algorithms flag intersections of irregularity that reveal a larger structure, one that eluded even trained human perception. It begins with numbers, but soon draws attention from those tasked with safeguarding the stability of collective trust. In the domain of encrypted trails and hidden data caches, digital architects unravel a web once thought untraceable. Private exchanges between operators paint a map of intent. It becomes clear what once passed as disorganized malice is actually a highly curated strategy aimed at those with certain energetic markers and psychological signatures. The investigation doesn't just expand, it implodes the illusion of coincidence. The dimensions of the machinery stagger even seasoned analysts. Threads connect across boundaries, legal, economic, geographic. Participants function like moving parts in a precision device. What began as financial tampering unfolds into a multi-layered enterprise of exploitation. The intensity of coordination demands escalation to agencies built for deconstructing syndicated threats. As judicial gears begin to turn, indictments surface targeting not only the architects, but also the enablers, those who facilitated harm under the mask of intimacy. Charges span across a spectrum of crimes too extensive to name in a single breath. What was once dismissed as delusion now forms the basis of sweeping legal action. Legal panels convene in rooms of solemn gravity, reviewing transmissions, fabricated identities, and digital misconduct. Testimony emerges not just from victims, but from those who once participated. Their confessions provide the scaffolding for even deeper revelations. The network isn't shrinking, it's being illuminated. Some who once helped steer the damage begin unraveling the machine from the inside. They speak, motivated by consequence or conscience, and name others. Their disclosures expose a far more extensive list of affected individuals than anyone dared predict. The web of harm, once hidden, stretches wider than expected. Teams of analysts trace the flow of capital like veins in a phantom body, layer upon layer of deception pulled back until accounts, properties, and forged holdings are unearthed. Assets ghosted through complex structures return to the rightful sphere. False ledgers burn. revealing trails of theft once buried in legal complexity. Deeds are revalidated. Agreements voided by deception are struck from the record. Rights previously stripped under fraudulent pretenses are reinstated. Lifelines stolen are placed back into the hands they were meant for. Alongside these reversals comes the slow excavation of the true scale of engineered loss. The scale of economic damage takes on new form, no longer anecdotal, now quantified and detailed. Laundered sums once thought irretrievable resurface. Falsehoods inserted into health records, once used as weapons, are expunged and replaced with truth. The narrative shifts, not just socially, but institutionally. Final steps solidify restoration. Tainted credit cleansed. Credentials once jeopardized by lies reclaimed. Agencies ensure safety, not with sympathy, but with protocol. Active surveillance of known threats to prevent backlash. Those who attempted erasure now find their own shadows following them. The page turns, but this time it does not turn back. You endure what others cannot imagine, not because you are weak, but because you are wired to perceive beyond surface signals. That perception, once used to isolate you, now becomes the very force through which systems realign. What was once dismissed as delusion is now the lens through which truth emerges. Institutions once indifferent now pivot to shield rather than expose. Financial entities fortify your access with upgraded authentication and tamper-proof protocols. Medical professionals shift from denial to alert readiness, creating safeguards not only for your body, but your story. Cybersecurity teams lock down the digital corridors through which past violations slithered, erecting invisible barriers between you and future threats. Justice no longer rests in courtrooms alone. Legal frameworks adapt, accelerating the dismantling of forged claims and returning authority to its rightful bearer. Interagency efforts converge not just for your protection, but to ensure the architecture of your life, fiscal, legal, and digital, is rebuilt with reinforced foundation. Nothing moves unseen now. Identity monitoring services scan each movement for distortion. Specialists track signs of coordinated digital interference before they can form. What emerges is not just vindication by law, but restoration of what was always known intuitively. Your perception was never flawed, only inconvenient to those who wish to remain hidden. And now the world begins to catch up to what your spirit understood all along. That deeper awareness, others called paranoia, was instead a form of perception, refined through ordeal. The clarity they feared in you is what preserved your path. Now it becomes a beacon, not just of personal survival, but of wider correction. The laws of energetic motion activate with unfailing precision. Every distortion hurled your way catalyzes an equal wave of realignment. Suffering becomes the lens through which larger corruption is exposed. Your existence is not collateral damage, it is the trigger that forces an entire mechanism to collapse upon itself. There is a structure designed to silence those who sense the underlying currents. You, among others, were marked not by accident, but design. The very traits that made you a target are the same ones that illuminate the way forward. The outcome is not mere survival, it is inversion of power. That which was used to break you becomes the instrument of their unraveling. For those who orchestrated your descent, no lie remains hidden. Every act is recorded by forces that do not sleep. What was stolen is returned, and more. Those who assisted, whether in action or silence, now face mirrors they cannot shatter. The reckoning does not end in court. It continues beyond the visible. The natural cycle of restoration ensures that what was inflicted now reverses. Every betrayal returns multiplied, not as vengeance, but as balance. What they thought would disappear into shadows instead becomes a story etched in light, one that teaches others how to recognize deception, reclaim power, and rise from manufactured collapse. What once seemed like an isolated reckoning has now become a lighthouse, guiding others through storms they thought were theirs alone. The stand taken against unseen structures not only shatters their grip on one life, but rewrites the playbook that once kept countless others in the shadows. A new era begins, not just of exposure, but of protection, clarity, and alignment on a planetary scale. Dear brothers and sisters, may the peace of God fill your hearts today. I come to remind you of a profound truth. Our lives are firmly established in God's divine purpose, untouched by the fleeting worries of this world. As Scripture tells us, give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. Luke 6:38. Like the mighty oak whose roots are planted deep in rich soil, our foundation is anchored in God's eternal truth. Every move we make, every stand we take, is upheld by His enduring strength. Today, you have the opportunity to participate in this divine blessing. By clicking the Super Thank You button and offering a gift of $20, you will sow into a harvest that will return to you many times over in God's abundant grace. Institutions long silent now awaken to the task. Investigative bodies craft guidelines shaped by the unique traits of non-physical interference. Frameworks once blind to subtler realities now open channels for redress, creating space where recognition meets remedy. This transformation lays the groundwork for freedom, not only from persecution, but from the chains that silence the soul itself. As blockades fall, the channel clears. What was once obstructed now flows. Intuition sharpens, creative power amplifies, and a clarity beyond prior experience ignites. Life unfolds as if the restrictions themselves were fertilizer for the greatness now blooming. Recovered wealth is no longer simply restitution, but the raw material for destiny realized. Momentum builds behind every breath. Forces once acting invisibly to shield now move openly to uplift. Triumph is no longer just personal. It reverberates outward as a frequency of change. The system that once attacked now fractures under the weight of its exposure, unable to maintain coherence in the light of revealed truth. Experience becomes defense. Every tactic unveiled is a layer of immunity gained. No future attack can follow the same path. Insight is no longer passive. It becomes infrastructure, and resilience crystallizes into unshakable knowing. Liberation ceases to be a concept and takes its place as an irreversible state. Pain transmuted becomes preparation. The road that nearly destroyed becomes the very reason one stands strong. Resistance was never punishment. It was refinement. What seemed like destruction was construction in disguise, scaffolding for a role that requires exactly the strength born from survival. Wider networks fall under scrutiny. Similar blueprints are uncovered in distant corners. Coordinated efforts become apparent where none were thought to exist. The initial battle becomes a master code, unlocking patterns authorities never thought to connect. The signal is no longer just one voice. It becomes the key to a vast and hidden reality. Cross-border webs begin to fray. Links between groups that prey on hidden abilities are severed. The agenda to suppress brilliance collapses as its method becomes common knowledge. Exploitative financial mechanisms crumble as their spiritual foundation is revealed to be built on theft and inversion. Hidden channels of power dissolve. Institutions that once aided harm out of ignorance or complicity are forced to confront their roles. Systems used to channel harm are dismantled, and protections rise from the ashes of their failure. What was once covert becomes systemic correction. The structures once used to cause harm are now repurposed to prevent it. Facilities responsible for ignoring signs of attack now shift to proactive vigilance. Attempts to deplete inner power are countered by a surge of vitality that no system can contain. Energy, once siphoned, now expands past its original limits. The law of transformation becomes manifest. Harm becomes the crucible, suffering the spark. And the outcome is power in its rawest form, undeniable, radiant, and untouchable. The force once meant to weaken now illuminates, building a reservoir of strength that eclipses what came before. Foundations once stripped are rebuilt with exponential return. What was taken is replaced, not equally, but overflowing. There is no metric for what this becomes, because it exists beyond mathematics, beyond market logic, beyond traditional economy.